Send weapons to Ukraine. That's been the message for months from US Senator John McCain, who has become one of the most outspoken lawmakers in Washington, calling on the president to send lethal aid to Ukraine. US President Barack Obama has the authorization from Congress to send Ukraine lethal and non-lethal aid to the tune of $350 million. While some of the non-lethal aid has made its way to Ukraine, weapons have not arrived, much to the frustration of lawmakers on both sides of the aisle in Washington, including John McCain. Ukrainian news agency TSN sat down with the Republican senator from Arizona to talk about this very subject.
Senator, do you know how to win the war?
The way to win the war is to provide Ukraine with the necessary weapons to defend themselves. That will exact a great toll on the Russians and the Russian people, as they did when the Russians invaded Afghanistan, will sooner or later rebel. It is criminal not to provide the Ukrainian military with weapons with which to defend themselves. And it is a shameful chapter in American history, and a president who has refused to help people who are fighting for their survival.
What could change his mind?
I don't know what's changed his mind. Members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, his chief advisors, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, I understand, and others. I don't know who the president listens to, but he's not listening to the cries of the dead and wounded Ukrainians who are defending the integrity of their country. For the first time in 70 years, a European nation is being dismembered, and that is a shameful thing to happen.
We're talking about dangers. There is an opinion that Kazakhstan and Belarus are now in more danger than, for example, Baltic countries.
It's hard for me to really estimate that, but I know where he's putting enormous pressures on, and that's the Baltics with Russian propaganda. I think that Kazakhstan is much weaker in many ways, so he may go in that direction. Belarus, of course, is a disjointed country with a brutal dictator in the case of Lukashenko. So it's hard to know, but the answer to your question, unless Putin is restrained, then all of those countries are targets for him sooner or later.
And in these circumstances, are sanctions really effective?
Sanctions to a degree are somewhat effective, although we must understand that Putin's popularity in Russia is incredibly high. I think the price of oil, because of the Saudis, is probably having the greatest effect on Russian economy, much more so than sanctions. And it's pretty clear that because of European dependence on Russian energy and European business, that they are really very reluctant to increase those sanctions. Again, shameful.
Do you know how to stop Putin?
The way to stop Putin is the old phrase of Ronald Reagan, peace through strength. We show our strength, we help our Ukrainian friends defend themselves, we move more of our NATO forces into these frontline countries, Poland, Romania, the Baltics, and others, and we make it clear to Vladimir Putin that the price he pays for aggression will be higher than any gains that he may make, and understand Vladimir Putin for what he is. He is an old KGB apparatchik that wants to, in his words, restore the Russian Empire. And he views Ukraine as the key element. After all, Russia began in Kiev.
Senator, you mentioned Budapest Memorandum and the violation of guarantees Ukraine got years before. Any chances to renew the trust to the word which America gave to Ukraine?
I'm afraid that the United States commitment is not worth very much today. Members of Congress and Republican and Democrat alike, have argued strenuously for providing assistance to Ukraine. Ukraine also needs economic assistance as well because of the conflict that has taken so much of the economic strength out of Ukraine. And so there are many ways to apply pressures on Vladimir Putin if we have the courage to do it. And the Europeans aren't going to do it unless the United States leads. And unfortunately, up to now, it has been published in the Wall Street Journal that we won't even give Ukraine intelligence information. They wait 24 hours, won't give them any intelligence information of what's going on in Russia. Those things are unbelievable. Could I make one additional comment?
Right.
Probably one of the most moving experiences of my life, and I have seen a lot of things in my life, was to be in the Maidan and see a couple of 100,000 people in freezing weather standing up for the things that we here in the United States take for granted. They want to be like Europe. They want to be like us. They want to be free to choose their own future. They want a government that is not corrupt, as the Yanukovych government was. They just want the same things that Americans and Europeans want. And it seems to me that when you see this kind of commitment from the people of Ukraine, the least we can do is assist them. And that does not mean sending NATO troops or American troops. It means helping them to defend themselves. And I think historians will look back on this phase and this period of not helping the Ukrainians as one of the more shameful chapters in American history.
Senator, as far as I know, there are always three ways to solve this situation. Could you please predict some ways to solve the Ukrainian crisis?
Unless something changes, like us giving great assistance to the Ukrainian government and military, Vladimir Putin will very likely lie low for a while. Things will calm down. The threat of increased sanctions goes away. And then he will start conflict around Mariupol and eventually take over, quote, separatists, take over Mariupol so that he has a land bridge to Crimea. Then, over a period of time, he will contemplate the situation in Kazakhstan, other countries, but also he will contemplate whether he should go across through Odessa and up to Moldova. I don't know what he will do, and I don't think he knows what he will do right now because he calculates the situation at the time. But if we continue to show weakness and he continues to have economic difficulties at home in order to maintain his popularity, then it is more likely that he will take additional action rather than not. Some say that the economic difficulties because the price of oil may restrain him. History shows that many times dictators embark on aggression outside their borders to divert attention from the domestic challenges that they're facing. So I can't exactly predict what he will do, but I can predict if there's continued weakness as he sees it, then he will continue his aggression and his absorption of territory.
What Ukrainians should do, what Ukrainian government doing right, what's wrong?
The Ukrainian government must embark on serious reforms. They have to reform the police, they have to reform the agencies of government, they have to rely on Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kiev, who I know is an honest man of great integrity, and they have to show the Ukrainian people that they are reforming the government that preceded them. Yanukovych was kleptocracy, as you know, and maybe they have to take on some of the oligarchs. But we've got to fulfill the promise to the Ukrainian people of the new government. And obviously they are diverted by the crisis and combat situations, but also they have to embark on fundamental reforms to make Ukraine like Europe and not like Russia.
How long will it last? What do you think?
I believe that as far as reforms are concerned, people want them, they will support them. I think they could be done very rapidly. I think in the case of Vladimir Putin, I think it's directly related to whether Vladimir Putin feels that the price that he pays for further aggression is too high. And the coffins come back to Russia, and the mothers of Russia begin to say enough.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.